I'm Llama Gucci from Ushijima's farm and you're watching Disney Channel. Think I might have accidentally fallen in love with Wakatoshi. That was the first thing that popped up in Tendao Satori's head when he was sitting in chemistry, staring at his marshmallow being burnt over the Bunsen burner. I wonder what his lips taste like. Strawberries? Mints? Chocolates? Or maybe, like the ramen noodles he had for lunch? Satori thought as he traced his index finger over the box of chocolate truffles in his hand, that he meant to give to a certain someone on Valentine's Day. What would our ship name be? Tenashi? Wakasatori? Satoshi? Wakatan? Maybe Ushiten? Yeah, Ushiten. Satori smiled as he continued doodling in the notebook he was supposed to be taking his pre-calculus notes on. Is he thinking about me the way I'm always thinking about him? Satori heaved an euphoric sigh as he stared at the left-handed spiker slam the ball onto the floor with all his might. He'll reject her. He always does. Satori thought as he watched from the windows upstairs. A small smirk dangled on his face as he watched Ushijima bow down politely in front of the millionth girl who'd confessed to him. I love you, Satori. Is precisely what Satori had hoped Ushijima would say to him during a training camp. I wish he'd look at me the way I look at him. Satori's lips quivered, tears glistened down his cheeks in tiny rivulets as he stared at this phone, the pathetic one-way conversations making him feel more and more distant with his best friend. Katoshi-kun. Yes. Tendao swallowed thickly, not breaking eye contact with the other's flustered face. Do you have feelings for me? Within a split of a second Ushijima's movements came to a stop, removing his hands from Tendao's waist, and as the other pulled away his arms from his neck, the once tightly knit proximity between them estranged into a formidable distance. Feelings? For you? Their eyes still held onto each other's gazes, though that only lasted for about a moment or two before Tendao looked away. What am I saying? Of course he wouldn't have feelings for me. I'm pulling your leg, of course. Obviously you don't have feelings for me. Tendao nervously chuckled, shifting his eyes around awkwardly as the other continued staring down at him with furrowed eyebrows. It's just his innocence speaking when he says he thinks of me. Wakatoshi's too caught up in his own world to even pay attention to something as silly as feelings. It's always been that way. I shouldn't be expecting anything else. Wait, Satori, like I said, I'm just. Tendao yelped when he felt a pair of arms circle around his waist. With widened eyes he slowly turned around to meet with the owner of those arms, which followed by a sigh of relief once he realized who it was. Sorry I took so long. That's fine. Gabriel averted his gaze to the dazed person in front of them and smiled softly. Mind if I steal him away for a dance? Ushijima paused, the pang in his chest intensifying by the second, his mouth slightly parted open and his mind resembling a blank canvas. Course. Ushijima slowly staggered away from the dance floor, his heart racing faster than the speed of light, his peering eyes not leaving the sight of Tendao. Deciding that he needed a breath of fresh air, he walked out of the gym and headed towards a random bench he spotted at the back of the gym. He fixed his gaze at the grass below him with his back hunched and his intertwined fingers resting against his lap. Feelings for Satori? Have what I've been feeling all this time. Love. Ushijima pulled his phone out of his pocket, squinting his eyes at it. He opened his messages, staring down at Terashima's name, debating on whether or not to ask him for advice. If he was so good at communication, then he wouldn't be harassing women. Ushijima shook his head at the memory of Tendao's words and heaved a sigh. Who am I supposed to ask? Ushijima looked down at his contacts, going through them one by one, most of which were his friends who were busy partying inside and others he wasn't close with. Guess I'll have to give these 3 people a try. Oh fuck no. Not this thirsty ass motherfucker again. Sexikua sent an attachment. I used to think puns were the lowest forms of comedy, but this meme of yourself has proven me otherwise. You should be the last person to judge comedy. How so? I think I am pretty funny. Then you must be tone deaf. I am very offended by that statement. This is not okay. You will be hearing from my lawyers. Is there a point to this? Because if not, then I'll be leaving. Yes, there is. Thank you for reminding me. I apologize for bothering you, but I have a question and I was wondering if you could answer it for me. Please reply at your earliest convenience. Looking forward to hearing from you. Regards. Ushigushi from the volleyball team. Sexikua sent an attachment. I do not know what you mean. Whatever, the block button looks hella pretty, so. It's a question about love. Horizontal ellipsis. Love. Yes, romance. Sexikua sent an attachment. I don't have time to listen to your Plantikua stories. It's not about Plantikua. And I know for a fact that you're just busy spamming Iwaizumi, but okay. You're on thin ice, I swear to God. So there's this plant that I've always cherished but didn't really realize that it was special to me until recently. But I hadn't given it much attention these past few years and now a weed has grown around it and I am stuck. So I guess I am not sure what to do. Sexikua sent an attachment. Even after I told you not to mention Plantikua. It's not about Plantikua. This is why I can't trust men. The plant's a metaphor for a person I care about. Your message could not be delivered. Did he block me? I guess I should have expected that. Ushijima let out a sigh and proceeded on to the next person on his list. Hello, Iwaizumi. Oh hey Ushijima. What's up? I just texted Oikoa but I ended up getting blocked by him, so I'm hoping you could help me out. I see. I apologize on behalf of his dramatic ass, but what do you need help with? I apologize for bothering you, but I have a question and I was wondering if you could answer it for me. Please reply at your earliest convenience. Looking forward to hearing from you. Regards. Ushigushi from the volleyball team. Sure. So it's a question about love. You? Love? Yes, the art of romance. I'm not exactly the best at that, but sure, I guess I can try to help you out. Thank you. So there's this plant that I've always cherished but didn't really realize that it was special to me until recently. But I hadn't given it much attention these past few years and now a weed has grown around it and I am stuck. So I guess I am not sure what to do. What do I even say to this? Oh, the plant is a metaphor for a person. I'll be right back. Oh sure. 10 minutes later. Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. Ushijima facepalmed himself before scrolling down to the last person on his list. He's my last hope. Lokajima. Ushijima-san? Yes. WTF. Oh shit, I didn't mean WTF. I mean I said it, but I meant holy frick, I can't believe you texted me. But anyways. Hello. I apologize for bothering you, but I have a question and I was wondering if you could answer it for me. Please reply at your earliest convenience. Looking forward to hearing from you. Regards. Ushigushi from the volleyball team. Can you dumb it down for me? Not that I'm dumb or anything, but I just want to clarify. I'm asking you if you could answer a question for me. Oh lol. Of course. What is it? Thank you. So there's this plant that I've always cherished but didn't really realize that it was special to me until recently. But I hadn't given it much attention these past few years and now a weed has grown around it and I am stuck. So I guess I am not sure what to do. Yikes, wow, that's a lot of big words, haha. 5 minutes later. Okay, I'm back. Welcome back. So what does cherished mean? Also, while you're at it, please tell me what weed means as well. It's not like I don't know what they mean, it's just I know so many languages so it can be confusing, haha. Oh, that's fine, I'll be right back. Okay. Ushijima heaved an aggravated sigh, resting his face in his palms and propping his elbows up against his thighs. Useless. This is just useless. Hey, you okay? Ushijima looked up instantly and blinked a couple of times. I don't know if I should tell him or not. We aren't that close and he is also Satori's friend. Oh yes, I am. You sure? You don't look like you're doing so hot. Oh, I just wanted some fresh air. Oh, alright. Just wanted to check up on you. Thank you. Don't mention it. I'll be going now, see you inside. Yeah. Ushijima watched as the silver-haired boy turned around and he swallowed thickly. Screw it. He is my last and only hope. Wait. Semi turned back around with an eyebrow raised and his arms crossed. What is it? Ushijima fiddled with the hems of his suit. I'm feeling a little conflicted. Would you be able to help me out? I can try. What's up? So basically there is this plant. Okay. I've always been fond of it and cherished it all throughout high school and even beyond that point. However, I am quite unsure of what it means to me and Ushijima, just to make sure. Ushijima looked up at Semi, whose eyes were a bit distraught. This plant you're talking about is actually a human, right? Please tell me I'm right. Yes, this plant is a human. Semi let out a sigh of relief. Okay, continue. Ushijima nodded. But now there's a weed grown around it and I guess I don't know how to get rid of it. Ushijima looked away, his eyebrows furrowing and his grip on his hand tightened. From the corner of his eye he could see that Semi took a seat next to him. Must be a really difficult weed, huh? Yes. Ushijima looked up at Semi with narrowed eyes. A really unusually nice one at that. But I have of course not been deceived by this though. Nobody can be that perfect. Except for that plant, of course. And that is precisely why I have assumed that this weed is part of something dangerous. Something dangerous? Perhaps like a mafia of sorts or a gang at the very least. What? Because of Hiroshima I have fallen into a rabbit hole known as Wattpad and I have gained all the knowledge this mere school could not teach me. I now know that there is no such thing as too nice of a person. Semi blinked once, twice and maybe a few more times before putting his hands up. Yeah, I'm lost, sorry dude. He almost got up from his seat until he saw the desperation in Ushijima's eyes. Wait. I just need your help to get rid of this weed. A sigh escaped Semi's lips. First of all, the only weed you need to get rid of is Hiroshima, because no offense but you sound like you eat peanut butter and crack sandwich for a living. Offended, but continue. Now I don't know the ins and outs of the relationship between this plant and the so-called weed, but I do know that trying to get rid of the weed isn't the answer. But Ushijima, do you care for this plant? Ushijima's eyes widened and he nodded vigorously. Of course I do. In what way? He inhaled a sharp breath and picked at his palm. I'm starting to realize that I care more than I'm supposed to. Then you would stop trying to get that weed out of the picture and maybe focus your attention on showing that plant that you like it. But how can I show with the weed in the picture? I can't tell you how, nor do I know how, but there's nothing wrong with expressing your feelings, as long as you don't have any expectations. Because at the end of the day it all depends on how the plant feels about you. So even if the weed wasn't in the picture there would have been no guarantee that the plant would have returned your feelings. A brief moment of silence passed by before Ushijima looked up at Semi, his cheeks flustered and his eyebrows frowned. I don't know how to express my feelings. Semi pursed his lips into a thin line, smiling tightly. None of us do. The simplest thing you could do is to just confess. But of course there's a time and place for it. I wonder how Galileo managed to confess. You mean Gabriel? Semi laughed unintentionally. Yeah. A few moments later Ushijima's eyes slowly widened in realization as he stared at the smirk on Semi's face. That's not what It's a little obvious. Semi chuckled awkwardly at the flustered mess in front of him. Don't tell him please. I won't but you should. I know. Ushijima. Yes. You reap what you sow. And that's simply what he did. That's right. He made the first move. Now it's my chance. Ushijima got up from the bench and stood before him. Then I can't waste any more time. I have to tell him before this night ends. Wait no. Time and place. Don't do it N. Fuck he's gone. Semi facepalmed himself as he watched the impatient man rush back into the gym wearing his heart on his sleeve. I was afraid of getting close to you. The first time I slammed down a volleyball feeling the pain stinging on my hand a chill ran down my spine. My heartstrings suddenly felt like they were made of iron and steel. Ushijima rounded the corner his heartbeat pounding in his chest. The sight of a black Oxford shoe lazily dangling inches above water slowly appeared into his vision. His eyes trailed up to the tightly lined lips that belonged to the boy with bored eyes. But looking at you now, I don't understand it. Like a child gulping down a mint of candies he felt a surge of sugar rush spiking through his body, adrenaline rushing through his veins. Because strangely enough you bring this kind of serene ambience with you, almost like there's this kind of warmth filling my heart. And I guess this is why I am afraid. I'm afraid of getting close to you. I'm afraid of breaking the peace you bring with you behind the chaos that ensues with you. With his steps as faint as a feather Ushijima sauntered over to Tendao standing before him with a raised eyebrow. What are you doing? A sigh escaped Tendao's lips following a lazy raspberry being blown. I'm really tempted to just take my shoes out and dip my feet in. Why don't you? Don't wanna ruin my pants you know? That's odd. Ushijima sat down next to the other, his legs stretched out against the floor barely grazing the edge of the pool. What's odd? The Satori I know would have just dived into this pool with no hesitation. Tendao scoffed, a smile lacing his lips as he brought his knees to his chest, hugging them tightly. He tilted his head to the side and looked at Ushijima. You seem to have high standards for me. Trust me, I'm not that reckless. Debatable. With an eyebrow raised, Tendao watched as the other slowly removed his shoes and rolled up his pants. What are you doing? Ushijima smiled at him as he moved closer, slowly dipping one of his feet into the pool, the cold water tingling against his skin. Being a little reckless. Tendao laughed, rolling his eyes playfully. Whatever widow. So why are you out here? Where's Gavin? You're never going to say his actual name, huh? Isn't his name Gavin? Acting coy doesn't suit you. Tendao chuckled, poking the other's arm playfully. He needed to take a call. Another one? I know what you're thinking, but he took 3 days vacation leave for me, so this is technically his working time. Ushijima pursed his lips into an O shape and shifted his gaze to the pool, the crevices of his eyebrows creasing. He really loves you, huh? Tendao rested his left chin into the crux of his palm and smiled against it, followed by a slow nod. Minutes of pure unadulterated silence which felt like hours swept by as the two of them struggled to form words, having so much to talk about yet no way to convey their river of thoughts. I need to tell you some. I actually wanted to. They spoke in unison, their eyes widening for a moment before laughter rumbled into the air. You go ahead. You sure? Yeah. Mine's a bit complicated anyways. I just wanted to apologize. Apologize? What for? Well, for you know. Tendao scratched the back of his head, a shade of pink dusted across his cheeks. God, this is embarrassing. You can tell me anything. Tendao averted his gaze to Ushijima, smiling a little before shifting them back to the pool, tracing circles into the water with his index finger. I feel like I've unintentionally made things between us awkward. What is he talking about? By asking you if you had feelings for me. Oh. But you. I guess it was a spur of the moment thing. I don't know, one moment I catch you staring at me, throughout an entire dance number might I add, and then the next we're slow dancing to my favorite song. And then the things you were telling me, just didn't sit right with me. And I know it's stupid of me to ask that because obviously you're not into me. I don't know, I was hoping if maybe you could forget that ever, huh? What makes you think I'm not into you? Tendao's finger stopped moving, his breath hitched in his throat as he slowly looked up at the other with slightly widened eyes. What? You're kidding, right? No. Wakatoshi, you do realize what you're asking me, right? Yes. I'm not sure why you think I couldn't be into you. Like plenty of reasons. Like. Tendao parted his mouth open before shutting it close, his eyebrows tightly knitted together. Satori, there's something I need to tell you. What? Tendao whispered, swallowing thickly. Ever since I was a kid I was always told that I was special, all because I could hit a ball with my left hand. And I guess I believed it too. But the very thing that made me special also prevented others from getting close to me because no one made an effort to even talk to me. Everyone feared me and I hated that. But I guess at one point I got used to it. And that's why I never let myself get close to people. I never understood what it meant to have someone care for you. Wakatoshi. But then you came and for the first time, you made me feel special. Tendao's restless eyes stared into the other soft ones, the frown on his lips becoming prominent while the knot in his chest tightened. You were the only one who wasn't afraid to talk to me, and you never gave up. You even went as far as to call me your best friend. And I still remember the feeling of my heart racing faster than the wind. But thinking back now, I wasn't able to distinguish my feelings like at all. And honestly, I have never been in touch with my feelings until tonight. Tonight. The only thing that's excited me for the first time in quite a while was knowing that I would get to see you tonight. Tendao had never been this speechless in his life. Not once. Honestly, what could he possibly say to the man that he once so badly wanted to be his soulmate, spilling his guts out to him? He knew he should be putting an end to this, but the selfish part of him left his muscles immobilized. But seeing you with George just threw me out of the loop. Not that I was surprised you'd found someone you loved, but because of how that was affecting me. How was it affecting you? Tendao was afraid of the answer, but the sadistic part of him absolutely needed to know the answer. It angered me. Every time he touched you, every time he made you laugh like I never have, and every time I watched you fall more and more in love with him, that pissed me off. Ushijima paused, looking up at Tendao, his gaze as cold as ice. But when I realized that he was actually an amazing person, that pissed me off even more. And I know why it pissed me off. Why? Because I'm angry that for the first time in my life I've felt jealous and there's nothing I can do anything about it. Satori. Tendao refused to open his mouth even when he felt a pair of hands on his, a nostalgic pounding in his chest as a thumb slowly stroked against the back of his hand. I have never experienced this before, so it may sound pretentious if I said that I finally know how I feel, but that's precisely why I'm confident that the feeling I have for you is love. Ushijima paused, letting the familiar silence seep into the air once again. Neither of them spoke a word to each other, and Ushijima certainly wasn't planning on breaking the silence until he felt shaky fingers against his palm. Slowly and tentatively he looked up and his heart dropped into his stomach, watching rivulets of tears trickling down his cheek. Satori, it's unfair. Tendao spoke in a low voice, his upper lip trembling. Ushijima could see that he was trying to hold back, trying not to cry, and something about that felt like a heartburn to him. What's unfair? Why are you crying? Tendao squeezed his eyes shut, blinking away his rests, and leaned his forehead against his knee before yanking his hand away from the other's grasp. He then opened his eyes, shifting his gaze to the man in front of him. All this time, all this fucking time, for the past 10 years of my life, I'd been nothing but hopelessly in love with you. At one point I realized that I had delusioned myself into thinking that if I just waited for you, you'd realize your feelings for me and come to me. You were in love with me. Ushijima hated hearing everything in past tense. Somehow it made everything feel a million times worse. Come on, you can't tell me you never noticed it. Everyone did. Why am I always the one out of the loop? I didn't. You're lying. No, I'm not. You of all people should realize that I am very dense when it comes to emotions. Anger dribbled down his veins, his fists clenched as he realized that all he'd ever done is create a mirage of the man he loved and force unnecessary expectations onto him. Of course you didn't. What am I thinking? I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't. Please don't apologize. I don't want to hear any apologies from you. Tendao buried his face into his palms, taking a deep breath. It makes me feel like you feel sorry that I loved you. I don't. I'm angry that I didn't realize it sooner. Tendao peeked a look at Ushijima, a soft chuckle escaping his lips. Aren't we all? But I've realized that I love why. And? That's right, what else was there really left for him to do? I spent the past few years trying to move on from you, and just when I thought I was completely over you, you decide it's the best time to confess. You realize how messed up that is, right? I don't expect you to. And the fact that you've been ignoring me for quite a long time until tonight is just a cherry on top. Ignore you? You mean the fact that we haven't texted each other in 3 years? A dry laugh escaped Tendao's lips as he shook his head. Trust me, it goes beyond these mere 3 years. What do you mean? Forget it. No, tell me. No. Please. Tendao let out a frustrated sigh as he stared into the other's pleading eyes. You never seemed interested to talk to me. Like not even 0.1%. I was always the one to initiate the conversation, and even when I did, all I got was one-word replies. It felt like talking to a rotisserie chicken. I mean, I know you don't talk a lot with people, but I guess I thought I'd be an exception because I was hoping you were thinking of me at least as a best friend. Ushijima's heart was drenched in regret as he stared at the emotionally tormented man in front of him. He tugged on the skin off his bottom lip, not knowing what to say. He inhaled a sharp breath before slowly reaching back to Tendao's hand hesitantly before gently pulling him close to his chest and awkwardly wrapped his arms around his back. Wakatoshi-kun, what are you doing? I don't know how to make this better, so I thought maybe a hug would help. A hug isn't going to give me an explanation. I know It's not that I don't want to talk, it's just I don't know how to. Inside I feel so incredibly happy when I get a text from you, but I am just unable to express it outwardly. I don't know how to talk to people like you, and especially with people I so strongly have feelings for. Tendao leaned his head against the other's chest, holding onto his shirt as he stayed there in silence. Your heart's beating too loud. So is yours. No, it's not. Ushijima's lips quirked into a faint smile as he nodded slowly. I believe you. Tendao smiled back against his chest, shutting his eyes close. I hope you know that I didn't confess to you expecting for something to happen. I'm glad to hear that. Tendao tightened his hold on the other's shirt as his breath shuddered uncontrollably, his fingers trembling against the fabric, the smile on his face remaining. They stayed like this, in a pure blissful silence for what felt like forever, his arms wrapped tightly around the other's back, whose silent sniffles vibrated against his chest. Satori, you hear? Tendao's eyes widened in realization as he instantly jumped from the other's arms, looking up at the indecipherable expression on his boyfriend's face. Gabriel. Tendao's breathing felt heavy as he stood up from the floor and rushed towards Gabriel, his heart pounding like a sledgehammer. Gabriel's glazed eyes melted into soft ones. And then he smiled. There you are. They walked back hand in hand and the only sound to be heard was the scrapings of their shoes against the ground. To say that Tendao had been going through a metamorphosis of emotions would be an understatement. The silence killed him, the overwhelming thoughts killed him, and the way his boyfriend had nothing but a smile on his face absolutely killed him. What was this sudden guilt he was feeling? He got the closure he needed, he dealt with his damage, but somehow, everything felt hazy. You okay? You look like you've been crying. Tendao's eyes perked up as he tightened his hold on his boyfriend's hand and looked up at him instantly. Oh, those aren't tears. It's nothing, don't worry. You don't want to tell me. It's not that, it's just. It's okay, you don't have to. I don't mind. Fuck. Wakatoshi told me he loved me. Oh. But nothing happened. I rejected him, of course. I see. Gabriel stopped walking and turned to him, staring down at him. Why'd you stop? How did you feel about it? About his confession? Gabriel nodded and Tendao drew in a deep breath, averting his gaze to the ground. I thought it was unfair. I mean, I'm happy in a relationship and he selfishly confessed to me without thinking about how this would make me feel. And it's not like I'm going to do anything about it, but it still hurts. Not that I don't love you or anything. Tendao's words faded into oblivion as he looked up to see the feeble smile that belonged to the sad and almost on the brink of being tear-filled eyes. Gabe, I guess I didn't notice it at first. Notice what? When you snatched the remote from my hands to put on the World League match, then the Japan national team, then the Olympics, and slowly every game of his. I thought it was beautiful that you cared so much for Ushijima. But I didn't notice it. And it wasn't until I watched your cheerful screams turn into a deafening silence at the end of every match and all I could see in your eyes was Ushijima, that I started to notice it. I don't know what you're talking about. I noticed that you were still in love with him. Tendao's eyes almost bulged out of its socket with the way he stood there dumbfounded and completely startled, the words escaping Gabriel's lips making his blood run cold. Wah. Wah, what? What are you talking about? I don't love him. At least not anymore. I swear I've moved on. I mean, I love why. Today just confirmed my suspicions. How? If you're referring to that hug, it didn't mean. I saw the way you were looking at each other, the way he was making you laugh, the love in his eyes and yours. I saw it all. What? Gabriel leaned in closer, his fingers grazing the other's cheek gently. Satori, even though we've only started dating for about 6 months, you keep forgetting that I've known you for longer than that. I know what makes you smile, what makes you laugh, and what makes you happy. You make me happy. And so does he. Gabriel, don't do this. Satori, from the moment I saw you I fell in love with you. I've always wanted the best for you, that's why I wanted to be the best. And the only thing that matters to me is your happiness, but what I'm looking at right now isn't anywhere near happiness. You look sad, guilt-ridden, and unable to get rid of the shackles that are tying you down. Tendao couldn't stop the hot stream of tears running down his cheeks as he brought a hand over to his mouth, his gasping wails permeating the air. Why am I crying so much tonight? Gabriel, please, I love you. I really do love you. Please, please don't do this. Not now. Please don't. Tendao looked away as he felt a thumb wipe away his tears. Please don't cry, love. It makes this even harder. You can't do this. Satori, do you care about me? What? Of course I do. Then how could you ask me to stay in love with someone who's in love with someone else? What about my feelings for you? Do you really want to be with me? Look me in the eyes and tell me you want to be with me with absolutely no regrets, and I won't ever bring this up again. Tendao's quivering gaze lingered longer at his boyfriend's eyes, his breath shuddering and the strong urge to be sucked into a black hole filling his head. I do. You hesitated. But that's. Satori, don't fight too hard against this. We both know the truth, there's no point in denying. Gabriel, I'm sore. Don't. I'm not sorry, I loved you and I definitely don't want you feeling sorry for that either. I'm the worst. I'm the fucking worst. Are you mad at me? Of course not. At Ushijima? Gabriel let out a low laugh, shaking his head. How could I be? I can't blame him for falling for you. What the fuck? Be angry with me, you stupid angel. Don't defend me. I'm horrible. Why are you being so nice to me? I hurt you and I broke your heart. No, you taught me how to love and I'll never ever regret falling for you. I don't deserve you. I never did. I'm the worst. Hey, look at me. Gabriel leaned in closer as he placed a hand under Tendao's chin, lifting his head so that he was forced to look at him. Satori, one of the best things about you is your absolute confidence in yourself. But when you self-destruct like this, I don't like it. But I need you to start believing that you are worthy of love. I need you to stop being your own bully. Yeah, this hurt, I'll admit it. I'm fighting so hard against my tears right now, but that doesn't mean I think you're horrible for falling in love. I just don't want to lose you in my life. If I let you go now, you'll be gone and I don't want that. It's selfish, I know, but I can't lose you. You won't. Tendao furrowed his eyebrows. I won't. Gabriel sighed, taking a heavy breath. I'm not ready to be just your friend right now. I need time. Tendao was about to open his mouth but decided against it. But I promise you I'm always going to be in your life. I just need time. Can you give me that? Of course. I mean, it's really the bare minimum of what I can do for you. Gabriel pulled the other into a hug, wrapping his arms around him, and the crimson-haired man instinctively hugged him back tightly, not wanting to let go. They stayed like this for a few minutes, Tendao nuzzling his nose against his neck and the other's fingers tangled in his hair. Gabriel was the first to pull away and the other followed him, slowly fluttering his eyes open and holding his gaze in his. I'm going to get going now. What? Already? Yeah. I don't think it's wise for me to stay here right now. Tenda frowned, furrowing his eyebrows, and nodded hesitantly. Hey, what's that look for? You're leaving. Of course I'm sad. Don't be. It'll make this even harder. See you later, Satori. See you, Gabriel. Remember that sometimes it's okay to put your happiness over others, especially when all you do is give. Tenda watched as the broken-hearted man walked away with a feeble smile remaining unwavered. He choked in his tears as he incessantly tried wiping his tears with his arms. You always smile for me, even when I don't deserve to see it. When Tenda entered back into the gym, he watched as the same dancing bodies and more kept at it. Some sat with their friends and others hung out at the food table. Everything seemed normal. Everyone was smiling and laughing. Except for him. At the corner of the room, Tenda noticed a couple coming out of a photo booth. He picked at his palms nervously before deciding to head over there. He just needed to be alone. He didn't care who watched as he rushed towards the photo booth, hoping no one had noticed him. He buried his face in his palms, his breathing labored. And at that very moment he absolutely hated being there. Satori? Wakatoshi? Yeah. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't want to talk to anyone right now. Tenda didn't hear anything and exhaled a breath he didn't know he was holding. But I'm not anyone. Ushijima stood still for a few more moments and was about to turn back around before he felt a hand grab him and yank him into the booth. The curtain swept across his face. He didn't know what to say. Hiroshima didn't teach him what to do when the man he loved was going through an emotional breakdown. We broke up. Because of me. Tenda looked at him from the corner of his eye and sighed before shaking his head. Because of me. I'm sorry that you went through that. Yeah, me too. Do you want me to talk to him? Maybe you could still do something about this so that he stays. And he told me that I was still in love with you. What? Why would he assume that? That's a baseless claim. And I didn't deny it. Oh. Why didn't you? Tenda picked at his palms nervously. Because it's true. I genuinely do not know what to say, and here I was thinking I had mastered the art of communication. Oh. Don't even try. I don't even have to look at you to know that you're struggling. Tenda chuckled softly and lifted his head up to take a good look at the flustered mess in front of him. I'm sorry. I am just not cut out for this communication thing. That's okay. It's one of the reasons why I love you anyways. Wait, I'll show you something. Okay. Ushijima quickly shuffled through his pocket and pulled out his phone, moving his fingers across the screen before handing his phone over to the other. I recently got a jade plant and named her Planticore because I was told that she'll bring me good luck. And I think if you make a wish to her it'll come true. Tenda laughed loudly, throwing his head back. You really haven't changed at all, have you? How do you know it'll come true? Ushijima grabbed the other's hand and intertwined their fingers together, smiling at him. Because mine did. Tenda's eyes perked up, feeling heat rush to his cheeks and the familiar strange tingling in his stomach. Wakatoshi. I'm scared. I'm scared that I'll lose you, again. Satori, I don't know what I should say to make you feel better, so I'm going to stick with being honest with you. Okay. Even if one day by unfortunate circumstances you stop being mine, I'll never stop being yours. You'll never lose me, I can promise that. Tenda's breath hitched, not believing what he's hearing and who he was hearing those words from. Really? Yes. You'll always be my forever. Whoa, slow down there, Mr. Banana Smoothie. You're gonna scare him off. Wakatoshi-kun. Satori, do you want to be with me? I do. I'm just not ready to be in a relationship right now. Then I will wait for you, but I promise I won't give up on you. Ever. Tenda smiled, his eyes brimming with tears as the other placed his hands on his face with a soft smile. Besides, Kendrick Lamar, Encore and Lamagachi already miss you a lot. Tenda laughed uncontrollably, gripping onto the other shirt. I miss them too. Did I tell you that Kendrick Lamar has a boyfriend now? Really? Yes, his name is Atsumu. We got him recently actually, and they seem to really hit it off. Not a cow having a better love life than me. Right. I'll show you pictures of them later. Tenda laughed, nodding his head. I'm looking forward to that. Ushijima cracked a cheeky grin and sighed wistfully, running his fingers through the other's hair. I can't believe you like me. Neither can. Tenda stopped talking when he heard faint noises coming from behind the curtain. Gosh, your mouth reeks of mustard. Shut up, you didn't mind kissing it last night. That's because it wasn't smelling like mustard. It doesn't, you're just. Would you both shut up? We can't hear them. You do realize that they can hear you, right? What? They can? Yes, we can. Tenda yelled out, rolling his eyes playfully. Oh shit, quick, let's get out of here. These guys, I swear. By the way, Satori. When you're ready let me know and I'll ask you to go on a date with me. 8? Don't you mean date? I'll give you the D later. Hiroshima just texted you that, didn't he? Huh? No, definitely not. That did not happen. Yep, this should work. I have successfully mastered the art of convincing. Whatever you say, Ashigashi. Chicken tenders. Huh? That's your new nickname. Tenda blinked twice before a huge smile broke out on his face. Chicken tenders. I love it. I knew you would. Tenda rolled his eyes playfully and stood up from his seat. Wanna go back? Ushijima nodded and grabbed his phone, shoving it back into his pocket. Before he could get up, he heard the sound of coins being inserted, and within moments he felt a pair of soft lips pressed against his cheek. His eyes widened a million times more than it ever had and his heart pounded in his chest. Tenda pulled away, grinning widely before walking out of the booth, pulling out the strip of pictures from the slot. Ushijima blinked a couple of times with his hand over his cheek. Old Mikoshi Gushi no longer had just a farm of animals, he had a tsunami of butterflies attacking his stomach, and for the first time in forever he finally knew what they meant. And he liked it. Satori, I have another confession to make. I think I have become a Simpson for you.
Oh, yeah.